Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for this policy committee meeting. This meeting is being recorded. The documents which will be discussed here today are available on the event calendar on our website, which is wmc.wa.gov. They are also available in the handout section of the webinar. I am Amelia Boyd, and I'm the program manager for the commission. I, along with Jimmy Bush, are the organizers for this meeting. Panelists, please make sure your line is muted if you are not speaking. Dr. Karen Domino is the chair for this committee. Once a presentation is completed, Dr. Domino will open the floor for committee and public discussion. Attendees, if you would like to ask a question or speak, please use the raise your hand function or put your questions in the question section. And with that, I will hand it over to Dr. Domino.
Hello, thanks everyone for attending, and sorry we're running a little late. Our panel B was running over a bit. We did want to get started, however, and I'd like Mike Farrell will take things out of our sequence of order and try to deal with some of the things that we feel are less controversial. And then since some of the panel B members are still in that panel for maybe the next 10 minutes or so. So Mike, why don't you pick out which one of these you wish to talk about?
Okay, I'll take the first one. The first one on the list is probably generate the least amount of discussion and discernment because it's been before you 3 times. So this is the proposed interpretive statement on establishing approval criteria for defining appropriate medical practices for IMG nomination. I think this has been before you 3 times. The last time was the November meeting, and you approved the language. You approved every part of this, but then you have to send it for secretary review. And then the secretary's office comes back if they have any changes and bring it back to you to see if you want to adopt the changes. So there are 3 changes. They're fairly minor. First, we drafted this as a policy, and they said that it seemed more like an interpretive statement to them. I should mention before I talk about this that rulemaking is underway on this, and this criteria is in the draft rule, which will probably be accepted by you sometime in the summer. But we think it's a good idea to get the interpretive statement because there are people relying on this. It's an important issue. So number 1 change was changing it from a policy to an interpretive statement. The other 2 changes are marked in red, putting the initials IMG in parentheses. Actually, there are 4 changes. The 3rd change is to spell out substitute House bill. And the last change, I think, is a really good one at the end of that 3rd paragraph. Since the statute does not define the term appropriate medical practice, the commission is changed to must establish qualification criteria. So these are being proposed to you to either accept or reject, and then you're done.
Thanks, Mike. Is there any discussion about this? As Mike said, we've seen it before. These are minor changes. Anyone, do you think it's worth any recommendation to approve this? No?
I move to approve.
Thanks. Do we need a second? Sorry, it's been a long day. If we don't, can I second it? And then all in favor, let's just, what are there, 4 of us here, 5?
There's 4 right now.
Yeah. If you raise your hand, I can't see everyone. Say, and anyone
Aye.
Against? Okay. It's approved. Thank you, Mike. Okay, next.
Yeah, I think the next easiest one is the 4th one, the last one, which is.
I thought that was 2. Agreed.
Yeah, self-treatment, and I say that because it's an existing policy that you've revised minimally over the years, And it came back a couple of meetings ago to put in just a sentence about warning physicians about accessing the EHR in an institution for non-clinical reasons. And then we got into quite a discussion last meeting about exactly how to word that. I'm trying to pull that document up. Oh, there it is. So it's the second page, and you can see, yeah, there it is in red. This is the way the sentence came out, telling physicians that, except under limited circumstances, they should not be accessing the medical records of themselves or family members, that they can always use the patient portal, which is the proper way to access records for people that either you're not treating or, well, for people you're not treating.
Yeah, Mike, I thought these changes were excellent. I thought they were, from what I heard before, we wanted to make the 2 points that are there that are listed in the 2 sentences, and that's under limited circumstances described above, as you see, that you shouldn't access your records in general, number 1, and that number 2, they should go through an existing patient portal, not the EHR in the institution they work at. So I like the changes. Anyone have any other comments about the changes that were made? Please say it if you do. If not, can I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Great. Any second? Guess we're so few of us. Just say all in favor, yeah, of approval. Anyone opposed? No. Okay, that's good. Terminating the practitioner-patient relationship, that one probably has less discussion. Mike, do you think? There were a number of changes there, and we've seen that before.
Yes, we had quite a discussion at the last meeting. So a work group is formed to come up with fine-tuning this, and you can see the fine-tuning that went on in the document.
Mike, can you tell us, I see some are in blue and some are in red, and I don't know whether this is what the last version was or whether these are different people who made the changes or what, you know, in the tracking.
Yeah, I think it's different people. I think that one color were the changes that I was making as we were talking at the last policy committee meeting or last business meeting. And then the other changes, I believe, were made by the work group that convened by phone. That was Dr. Roberts, Mr. Malden, and Dr. Yu, I believe. So all of the changes that you see, no matter what color they're in, are changes from the version that you looked at in January.
And I thought these changes were excellent. How about other members of the committee? Any discussion about them? Can we have a motion to accept them?
So moved.
Great. A second. All in favor, raise your hand. Anyone opposed? No. Good. That passes as well. I know since that with regard to Mr. Malden and others who are on the still in panel B, I think the discrimination in the policy discrimination in healthcare, wasn't there a work group made about this, or is this I mean, because I recall something about this and some comments before.
Yes, so we had This is Mahi. So we had a work group was formed last meeting, and we had 2 meetings, at which time we revised and fine-tuned the document. And so I can talk about it now, or would you like to wait a little bit, maybe?
Well, I don't know. What do you think, Amelia?
Well, I was going to see if I could reach out to somebody who's in panel B and see if they have any idea how much longer they will be. We could take a short break and wait for them.
Sure. I mean, I think it would be good to have more input on this. I know Alden had some concerns the last time that I thought when I saw were altered,
Mm-hmm.
and not on there. This improvement or revision. So we could do a short break.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. I can put a sign up on the
I didn't know if
screen.
they had one case left or not. Rick Klein was the attorney. I don't know how many cases. We only were dealing with this first of his cases, if that's helpful. So
I just
we'll just take a
contacted
short
Rick.
break and wait.
Rick said about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Oh, perfect. So why don't we do that?
Good.
We'll take about a maybe we'll do like a 7-minute break and come back
Yeah.
at 4:27.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Thank
We
you.
can do that. I'm waiting on a status of panel B right now.
Hi, Amelia, since if they will be a while, we could just discuss it and begin discussion of this.
It
What would
looks
you
like
rather
they
do?
just it looks like they just finished,
Oh,
so
good.
they're probably getting
Yeah,
to their email to get over here.
right. Okay, great.
We'll wait a few more minutes. Looks like Christine has arrived.
Yeah, sorry about that. We just finished with
No
our
worries.
cases. So yeah,
No worries. There's Mr. Malden.
I am going to step away for just 1 minute though.
Okay.
Should we wait for Dr. Roberts?
Is this over yet?
No,
No,
we took a break.
We took a break. We voted to approve 3 of the documents, and which are all of which we've seen before and had minor changes to improve the documents. They were just the one that I was waiting for you to discuss is the one called Discrimination in Healthcare, which we'd seen earlier versions. And I know Dr. Roberts had some recommended changes. It went to a work group, and we decided to wait since it's an important document to have the panel B committee members' opinions about it.
Well, I like the document as it appears in this, as it appears on the screen at the present time. I think the concerns that I had about it at the last meeting, have been resolved, and I think this is a good document. And Molly, thank you very much for your work on this.
I also liked the document. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was clear, and I didn't have any recommendations for it myself. How about some of the others of you?
I too thought it was good. Did have a nitpicky though in the second sentence where it says WMC sets the expectations. Should we say that all patients shall be treated? Or just, does all mean all patients?
I see what you mean. It says licensees.
All
that's
licensees that
different.
all
Yeah.
shall be treated with dignity.
Yeah. Okay. All. Yeah.
Question, should it say all patients shall be treated?
Got you. Anyone have any feelings? Seems fine with me to add the word all.
Add patients.
And patients after that, right? All patients shall be treated with dignity.
Well,
Well, we're wordsmithing. Okay, I'm sorry.
shouldn't it also cover the office people as well? The practitioners to practitioner interactions.
So patients kind of confining it, is that what you mean, Arlene? Just
Yeah.
boxing it in? So
Yeah.
that everyone shall be treated with dignity and respect?
Yeah.
And take the all out?
Any other suggestions for changes?
Can I make a few suggestions? We're wordsmithing.
Certainly.
If we go down to the key terms in bias, could we say tendency to favor one group over another instead of the other?
Oh, yeah.
And then in discrimination, unfair treatment, could I suggest, and I don't want to start a big discussion, I'll withdraw if there's anything. Could we strike the words characterized by implicit and explicit bias? The reason is discrimination. There are many, many sources of discrimination, and going back to Allport and Mertens and some of the earlier researchers, discrimination can also occur even without the biases or the attitudes. We're more familiar with that type of discrimination, but there are other types and types that are most easily targeted by policy where it's just the norm, or institutional or systemic sources where people just do what they've always done. And even though there's no intent or there's no bias, there's still a good bit of discrimination. And I'm just wondering if we could avoid getting some sharp feedback from the medical sociologists or those groups when this hits.
Any comments about that? Thoughts?
Could you give an example? Because I don't quite understand.
Yeah, so discrimination is a behavior, or even not so much a behavior, sometimes an effect. So, for example, someone might deny a person of color a certain favorable credit rating based on a credit score, and not have any implicit or explicit. In fact, it could be another person of color from the same group, And that would be an example of a systemic discrimination where the credit score is lower because of past discrimination. And so this would have a discriminatory effect, even though there is no implicit or explicit bias. Same thing with access to healthcare in poorer neighborhoods, in poorer cities, in inner cities. There might not be access to the types of specialty services that are necessary. That's not because necessarily that the doctors have any implicit or explicit biases. That's just a discriminatory effect of institutional and systemic biases. If it's, I can withdraw the suggestion. I've meant to make some contributions the last 2 cycles in my quote unquote spare time, and I miss the opportunity. So if that's going to impede us from getting us across the finish line today, I'll withdraw that suggestion.
Any thoughts about that? I like Scott's suggestion, but I'm happy to leave it as is too.
I don't mind it being removed, but I do think that the examples that were given are examples of bias. So it's that it's so embedded into so much of what we do that it leaches into this. And that is not an indicator that bias is not there. It's just an indicator that we've all become blind to it. And if taking that out will make people more accepting of it, then that's fine. But yeah, I think.
I mean, it's systemic bias. That's why I say I didn't mind what's in there now, and I leave, just other people's points of view. Yes.
Can I say something? This is Mahi.
So, sorry, I don't see everyone on the list, so just yell out. Thank you.
Okay. So in this document, we are targeting the behavior and how it's expressed by the individual, not necessarily the institution. So this policy only applies to like the healthcare office, not, the entire hospital. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I like the fact that, implicit and explicit biases are there. And we define it further to see, what kind of attitudes and beliefs constitute explicit and implicit bias. And that just, and we were able to build the commission action on the severity of the discrimination. And the way we were able to do it is by, so if it's an implicit and the individual doesn't recognize what they're saying is, or what they're doing as a discrimination, then it gets, it could be remediated by an education. But if it's severe enough, it's explicit to a point where it hurts the individual, then that's considered explicit. So in the commission action portion, we kind of clarify that. So I think we should leave it in there.
So it sounds like it should be left. Scott, you're okay with that?
Sure, yeah. And then I think one more in prejudice. Under prejudice, I'm wondering if we could strike a primary determinant of discriminatory behavior for the same reason that discriminatory behavior happen. I mean, there's cognitive, and affective sources or causes of discriminatory behavior, and prejudice is really the attitudinal one. And I wouldn't want to suggest that that prejudice is the only source of discrimination. Again, that might not be the intent of the words there, but that really carves out the types of discrimination that we can really target with policy, that is the non-attitudinal, the cognitive ones.
Any comments about that? Other thoughts? What would the group like to do?
I can see where Scott's coming from. It's almost like a You would have to define that, right? It's almost like not really a complete sentence, but a thought. But I think that prejudice with an unfavorable opinion or feeling formed beforehand or without knowledge, thought, or reason meets that. But I don't hear what other people say.
Well, I actually think the comment is accurate. It is a primary determinant of discriminatory prejudice. It is not the only determinant of discriminatory prejudice. I think it's an accurate comment. And if you attach it to prejudice, which is where it is attached, I think it's saying what it needs to be saying.
So then maybe instead of having it hang there by itself, thought or reason with a semicolon and then make the A small.
Or just put prejudices are a
Or-
primary, you can just
Yeah.
write prejudices are a primary determinant of discriminatory behavior. Just, although,
So what was it you wanted to change it to?
all I would say is prejudice is a primary determinant of discriminatory behavior.
And that's all? And take the rest out?
No, I'd leave everything else in.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it. Mhm.
It makes it a full sentence.
Yes, exactly. It's not just a dangling, whatever you call it in English. When you used to diagram sentences way back when, yeah.
I think it also affords it the importance that it needs to have been afforded.
Yeah.
Could we, would it be just as accurate if we say that prejudice is often associated with discriminatory behavior instead of a primary determinant of?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think
One more
that carries a different meaning from what you say. what's being
Right,
said.
and that kind of gets at the point. And maybe I'm just trying to be too academic about it, but I mean, there's a lot of research, especially earlier on in the beginning research of these issues, which is primarily after World War II, when the academicians became interested. Interestingly, prejudice and stereotypes often are a rationalization of discriminatory behavior, and people back into the beliefs and the attitudes from social learnings and from their own behaviors, as opposed to adopting. I mean, we think we live in a cause-effect nexus where our thinking and attitudes become before our behavior, but never mind. I'm getting too academic. I like it as it is. Let's just leave it, and I move that we adopt this.
The other thing is that this is a definition of prejudice. It's not a definition of discriminatory behavior.
And that's what I'm saying is that that's exactly what I'm saying. But maybe I'm parsing it too academically.
Okay. My only other thought being, having is do we put the word in the definition, or are we defining the word? That's the only, with putting prejudice in there. When you define a word, you don't typically put the word in it, but I was just looking it up, and it says prejudice is a liking or dislike for one rather than another, especially without good reason. A feeling of unfair dislike directed against an individual or a group because of some characteristic as race or religion. I just looked it up to see, just out of curiosity, to see what it said.
There are many different
So, yeah,
people define it different ways, and so
that's
I
why
didn't mean to open us up to all
No,
this. I like it as it is.
I did too. That's why I was thinking we do the semicolon and the small a, because then you're not putting the word in that you're defining.
The definition comes before that. I think when you're saying at the end is, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, I'm just.
So what would you like then?
You want to just have the semicolon and remove
Semicolon
that basically,
and
instead of having a capital A, you have a semicolon and a space and a small
Yeah.
a.
Yeah.
And that leaves it if for those English majors who.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
do a
it's
lot of
okay.
policy
We all want to
writing.
have correct English.
I do a lot
Doctors
of that at work, so you know.
best at that.
So would we take this out of the next one then, so we're not repeating? I mean, I want to get into the weeds here, but
Yeah, I hear
Yeah, we
you.
should be consistent. Thanks, Amelia.
Yeah.
Are we consistent on all the others? Looks like it. The only thing that isn't consistent is some have a lowercase a implicit bias, or explicit bias has a lowercase. Health inequities has a lowercase. Some have an uppercase. I don't know. You know, see what I mean? Some are
I'll let
capital,
you
some aren't. And
I'll
so
let you
those
fix that, Farrell. Clean it up.
I'm on top of that.
Okay, perfect.
Any other comments and thoughts about other sections of this? Scott, you said you had a number of little things.
No,
Any further discussion about it? No? All right. Kind of a motion to accept this?
so moved.
Yep. And then we had two, and Christine could be our second. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye if I can't see you. Anyone opposed? Great. Nice job. Committee, the work group did a great job on it. Thank you. Okay. For those of you who were gone, still in panel B, we accepted the other three documents. And I think there were more of us than who were there, so it passes, unless you have some major issue with them. Anyone have any thoughts? I mean, for John, Alden, Christine?
I mean,
We do have one hand raised in the attendees. Do you want to take that
Okay.
question now?
Sure, go right ahead.
Go ahead, Jody.
Oh, I just typed mine in. When the screens are dark and people are coming and going between B sites and what's going on in here, it would be beneficial to state your name and your vote. Thank you.
And that's the only hand that was raised.
So in terms of the people who voted, do you want to hold that because it was unanimous on those?
Well, we typically don't even track who's voting
Okay.
because
All
we
right.
don't do minutes for the policy committee meeting.
Yeah.
And then even at the business meeting when they're discussed tomorrow, we only track if it's not unanimous. That's really the only thing. Like if someone opposes, then that's all we really track. So.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, we had a long panel B today, but we have a short policy meeting. Thanks everyone for doing a great job on these revisions and the work groups. And we'll bring these, Mike, you'll email out, or whoever will email out the changes in the discrimination statement. And all, I mean, the others they're all minor. Or do you want to just say what, I can just say what they are tomorrow? You can show.
I'm happy to email them out.
Please do.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have a little sun here in Seattle. So have a good afternoon. Yeah, late afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.